Okay, is it just me or is everyone obsessed with sardines right now? If you've spent any time online recently, you've probably seen people talking about something called the sardine fast. It's one of these nutrition trends that keeps popping up everywhere. People saying it resets your metabolism. It's the fastest way to get into ketosis. And some people even saying it helped them to break through a weight loss plateau. Now, normally when something like this starts trending online, I'm pretty skeptical because the internet has a bit of a habit of turning simple ideas into overhyped health trends. Does anyone remember celery juice? People are always looking for quick fixes, and that's why something like this can be so catchy. But in this case, I was actually intrigued. And the reason is because sardines themselves are one of the most underrated foods out there, nutrition-wise at least. In fact, one of my recent videos on the benefits of sardines ended up getting over 1 million views. And I think this is because when you actually look at the nutritional profile of sardines and what they can offer your body, they really are a superfood. They're incredibly high in omega-3 fatty acids. They're packed with complete protein. They contain calcium, iodine, vitamin B12, vitamin D3, selenium, and trace minerals. And unlike some seafood, they are also very low in mercury. And this means they're one of the safest fish you can eat regularly. So when I started seeing people talking about sardine fasting, I thought, all right, I can give this a try. But I didn't want to just track it casually. I wanted to get some hard data for you guys. I wanted to see what was happening metabolically. And to do this, I've been wearing a continuous ketone monitor. This tracked my ketones throughout the fast. And let me tell you, the results, spoiler alert, were pretty impressive. Now, before we get into exactly what happened during my 3-day sardine fast, where yes, I ate nothing except for sardines, let's first cover the basics. What exactly is sardine fasting? This is exactly what it sounds like. A short period of time, usually 3 to 5 days, where someone eats nothing but sardines. No complicated meal plan, no calorie tracking, no elaborate recipes, just sardines. Now, the general recommendations for sardine fasting are to just eat when you're hungry. For most people, this usually ends up being about 2 tins of sardines, about 3 times per day. A typical tin of sardines usually has about 20 grams of protein and a decent amount of fat. So these really are true ketogenic macros. Now, one important detail I will mention here is it's really important that you buy your sardines in spring water. We don't need to worry too much about wild caught and looking for that label because sardines are almost exclusively wild caught, which is one of the reasons why they're so amazing. You know they're going to be good quality. But buying them in spring water matters because you don't want to be getting them in any inflammatory oils. Many canned fish products are packed in seed oils because they're inexpensive. And a lot of people experimenting with fasting or ketogenic approaches try to avoid these oils. They're inflammatory. They take away from the benefits of sardines and fasting. So no soybean oil, no cottonseed oil, and definitely no canola oil. Ideally spring water. But if you can't find them in spring water, then 100% olive oil is okay too. So when I did this experiment, I ate them only in spring water. And I'll link some of the brands that I use and that I recommend in the description box down below. Now, the idea behind sardine fasting is pretty straightforward. You're eating food that's very high in protein, rich in healthy fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids, which are hard to get from other foods, extremely low in carbs, and very nutrient dense. And this naturally pushes your body towards fat burning and ketone production. But there's another reason why people are turning to sardine fasting. It's something that's often overlooked when we talk about nutrition, and that's decision fatigue. Eating exclusively only one food removes this entirely. One of the hardest parts about dieting or improving your metabolism is constantly asking yourself, what should I eat next? What should I cook? Am I eating the right thing? The sardine fast eliminates that entirely. For 3 days, the answer is always the same. I'm eating sardines. So when I went into this experiment, I was really curious about the impact that sardines, eating this many sardines, eating these macros would have on my metabolism and specifically my ketones and my fat burning. Now, if you've ever tracked your ketones before, you probably know how annoying it is to constantly be pricking your finger. And that's why I decided to use a CKM, short for a continuous ketone monitor from SciBio. It's similar to a continuous glucose monitor, which I know a lot of you have tried, but instead of measuring your glucose levels, It measures your ketones. And this is incredibly helpful because it allows you to see when your body shifts between burning carbohydrates for energy and burning fat. You put the device in once and you can see your results in real time. Now, besides just noticing how sardines and fasting impacts my ketones, I also noticed a few other things as well, including the impact that exercise had, that poor sleep had, that stress had. We forget that all of these things are connected. Oftentimes, we just focus on food. But did you know that a stressful meeting can kick you out of ketosis? When cortisol goes up, your body releases glucose. This enters your bloodstream and ketones go down. Now, some things in life, of course, you can't avoid, but using a continuous ketone monitor and seeing how certain things impact your metabolism, your fat burning, your body as a whole, this can be eye-opening. And this is data you can use to make choices going forward, choices to support your health. So let's get into what I experienced during the fast. Now, just some background. Going into this, I started on a Monday and I had a pretty busy weekend. I had my presentation night for hockey, and that was a bit of a late one. I was eating out, I had a few drinks. So going into Monday, my ketones are very low. And that's completely normal. When you consume carbohydrates, when you consume alcohol, your body prioritizes metabolizing these first. So fat burning and ketone production are basically turned off temporarily, which meant that Monday morning was the perfect time to start this experiment. Now, day one was the hardest. If you have ever tried to do any form of fasting before, at least for myself, this has always been the case. Your body is still expecting regular meals. Blood sugar is still adjusting. And the first day of my sardine fast felt very similar to that of other fasts I'd done. There was some hunger, I was a little bit low on energy, wasn't feeling 100%, a little bit hard to focus, nothing crazy. Also an important note, I had no caffeine during this time. Throughout the day, I ate 2 tins of sardines at breakfast, 2 at lunch, and 2 at dinner. So 6 tins total. Now, to make them a little bit more enjoyable, and because I know that I do have higher energy needs, I'm very active, I did add olive oil. This was just to add a little bit more fat and also helped with the flavor. Sardines, not my favorite, taste-wise at least. Love them nutritionally. And I also added sea salt. The salt was to make sure that I stayed on top of my electrolytes, because when you're doing any sort of fast, especially when carbs are low, you need electrolytes. Your body is losing more, you're losing more fluids, you're losing more electrolytes, so you need to replenish. If you don't, that's what often holds a lot of people back when they're fasting. They get headaches, they get fatigue, they start getting cravings, and oftentimes these are because their electrolytes are low. So salted my sardines, and I also use Sodi's everyday hydration salts in my water. Now, my ketones were sort of hovering around 0.3 to 0.5 for most of the day, but around the 24-hour mark, that's when I saw them increase. They crossed over that 1.0 threshold. And this is generally considered to be the beginning of nutritional ketosis. So despite the fact that I was eating, my ketones actually went up relatively quickly. And at this time, I also noticed that my hunger completely went away and my energy increased. Telltale signs that your ketones have gone up. And this is something that I tell anyone who's trying to do an extended fast. If you can push through that first 24 hours, it gets a lot easier. So when you're planning to do a fast, whether it's a sardine fast, a water fast, or whatever type of fast, make sure you're busy during that first day. Because once you get past that point, it's easier, trust me. Now, over the next 2 days, my ketones continued to rise. They eventually peaked at around 2.0. Now, something to note is that generally my ketones don't get very high. And this is something that a lot of people notice. When they first start eating a low carb diet or they first start fasting, their ketones can shoot through the roof. But as your body gets better at using ketones, it figures out the right amount for your needs. So your ketones don't end up being as high. So this level was great for me. This was still solid ketosis. Now, I will note that there were some fluctuations throughout the day based on my exercise. Because when you wear a continuous ketone monitor, you start to notice some things that you might otherwise not have noticed. For example, when I do strength training, my ketones drop. And this actually makes sense because anything you're doing that's high intensity, that requires quick energy, your body wants to fuel that with glucose. So during this time, your body releases stored glucose. Your blood sugar goes up and your ketones go down. That's normal. But 2 hours later, my ketones were back up to 1.5. Now, whenever I went on a walk, or one day I even went on a zone 2 run, my ketones went up during this time. That's because when you're doing lower intensity exercise, it can be fueled by fat. And this is why things like walking or zone 2 cardio can be so great for fat burning. Another thing I noticed was that my ketones went up slightly after meals. And again, this makes sense. I was eating a lot of fat. The fat from the sardines and from the olive oil. At around the 48-hour mark, I was feeling pretty good. My hunger was completely stable. I wasn't having cravings. I wasn't having headaches or fatigue or anything like that. My concentration, I was hyper-focused. I was feeling pretty good. And coming out of the fast, I felt like I had given my body the reset it needed. Because when you do a fast like this, it actually helps to reset your hunger hormones, especially if you are eating at the same time every day. Your body is smart. If you always eat at 9 a.m., it's gonna release hormones at that time in anticipation of a meal. And this is why when someone first starts out intermittent fasting and they're skipping breakfast and they find it very, very difficult, it's because your body is used to you eating at that time. But if you push through for a few days, maybe even a week and a bit, your body realizes that food isn't coming at that time and it becomes a lot easier. Same goes for people who say they're never hungry at breakfast. That's because they don't eat breakfast. So those hormones aren't being released. You can train your body to be hungry at the times that work for you. It takes a little bit of patience and a little bit of discipline, but once you do it, your hunger is in your control. Now, I know what you might be thinking. All of this sounds great. You want to give it a try, but you're not sure you can stomach that many sardines. And trust me, they do have a strong taste. I know a lot of people are not really a fan of the bones that are in sardines, although I would recommend not picking them out. That's where the calcium is. There's extra nutrients in there. I know it's not my favorite texture either, but I do have a couple of alternatives. Now, one that I haven't seen anyone really talk about is eating mackerel instead of sardines. It has a similar nutritional profile. It's also a cold water oily fish, rich in omega-3 fatty acids and low in mercury, but it's less fishy. Honestly, I love the taste of mackerel. Sardines, I can stomach, but not my favorite. Now, another option that I wouldn't necessarily recommend as an alternative to sardine fasting, but if you want to get the benefits of sardines in through your diet on a consistent basis, I recommend sardine capsules. Grassland Nutrition has just released these, and they're essentially freeze-dried sardines in a capsule form. And this is different from an omega-3 supplement, which just isolates the fat and the omega-3. With sardine capsules, you're getting the full benefits of the sardines, but in capsule form. That means the full nutritional profile. Now, I didn't test these during the experiment. I don't know how fasting with sardine capsules would work. That would actually be interesting. Maybe I should give it a try. In theory, you'd still be getting the same nutrients, but yeah, it'd just be interesting using the capsules instead of actually eating the sardines. Now, how would I compare my 3-day sardine fast to 3-day water fast that I've done in the past? Water fasts, they do have tremendous benefits, but they are a bit more extreme. They're not as approachable for the average person. Yes, not eating anything does tend to push ketosis faster, but honestly, I saw pretty decent ketone readings eating sardines. So if the goal of your fast is to reset your hunger, lower your insulin, control your blood sugar, you can still get all those benefits when eating sardines. Now, if your goals are maximizing autophagy, doing a digestive reset, then yeah, water fast is gonna be a better option in that case. But a lot of people try to do a water fast and simply can't stick to it. So if that's you, if you're really struggling, then doing a sardine fast can actually help you to train that fasting muscle. Honestly, it is a much more approachable version to fasting. So at the end of the 3 days, my ketones had stabilized between 1.5 and 2. My energy was steady, my hunger was in my control, and metabolically, the experiment worked how I expected it to. So would I recommend sardine fasting? Yeah, there's no harm in giving it a try. Even better if you use a continuous ketone monitor to track your results. Because honestly, when you see your results in real time, when you see your ketones going up, That is very motivating. Anytime I've done a fast and I've been tracking my ketones or my glucose and seeing those numbers improve, it helps me stick to it. I want my ketones to get higher. And I know to do that, I have to keep going. So does the sardine fast work? Metabolically, I'd say yes. It's essentially a very simple ketogenic reset built around an extremely nutrient-dense food. But like any fasting strategy, it's not magic. Long-term health still comes back to the basic fundamentals. Eating real food, prioritizing protein, eating healthy fat, moving your body regularly, and creating habits you can sustain. One sardine fast isn't gonna change your life. It can provide a lot of benefits and it might help you to get in control of your hunger, but it's not a long-term solution. Now, I wanna hear from you guys. Have you tried a sardine fast before? Are you curious about it? Are you wanting to try it? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you wanna try out a continuous ketone monitor for yourself during your sardine fast, I'm gonna link the one I use from SciBio in the description box down below, along with some of my favorite sardine brands.